Have you ever looked back at a relationship and thought, how did I not see it? Maybe they kept breaking promises. Maybe they disappeared whenever things got serious. Maybe every time something felt off, you found yourself saying, they're just stressed. They didn't mean it. It'll get better. And then one day, you look back and realize the signs were there all along. If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. A lot of people think ignoring red flags means someone is naive or simply bad at choosing partners. But that's usually not what's happening. The truth is, our minds don't experience love like detectives searching for facts. We experience it through emotion, memories, hope, and the deep desire to feel connected. That's why love can sometimes make obvious things incredibly difficult to see. When you become emotionally attached to someone, your brain naturally starts protecting that connection. Instead of asking, is this relationship good for me? It quietly begins asking, how can I make this relationship work? And those are two very different questions. One of the biggest reasons people ignore red flags actually starts long before they meet the person they're dating. Think about it for a second. The relationships we experience growing up quietly teach us what love is supposed to feel like. If affection came with unpredictability, emotional distance, mixed signals, or constant uncertainty, those experiences can become strangely familiar. So years later, when someone makes you feel that same emotional uncertainty, it doesn't always feel wrong. Sometimes it feels like chemistry. That sounds strange, but our brains naturally gravitate toward what's familiar, even when that familiarity isn't healthy. Not because we enjoy pain, because familiar feels safe. It's like hearing an old song you've known your whole life. You don't choose to recognize it. Your brain simply does. Love often works the same way. There's another reason this happens that people don't talk about enough. The more emotionally invested we become, the harder it is to question the relationship. Imagine you've spent months imagining a future with someone. You've pictured the trips you'll take together, the conversations you'll have, maybe even the life you'll build. Those dreams start feeling real. So when something doesn't add up, your mind isn't just protecting the relationship. It's protecting the future you've already started living inside your imagination. That's why someone cancels plans again, and you tell yourself they're just busy. They lie, and you convince yourself everyone makes mistakes. They become emotionally distant. And you assume they're just going through something difficult. Little by little, hope becomes louder than reality. And honestly, that's a very human thing to do. But here's something even more interesting. Sometimes people don't ignore red flags because they can't see them. They ignore them because seeing them clearly would mean making a decision they're not emotionally ready to make. Deep down, part of them already knows something feels wrong. That feeling is there. It never completely disappears. But accepting it would mean accepting the possibility of losing someone they deeply care about. And that's incredibly painful. So instead, the mind quietly buys more time. Maybe things will change. Maybe next week will be different. Maybe this conversation will fix everything. It's not really lying to yourself. It's more like your heart asking for a little more time before facing reality. Another reason this happens has less to do with the relationship and more to do with how we see ourselves. If someone secretly believes they have to earn love or fears they'll eventually be left, every relationship starts carrying enormous emotional weight. A small act of kindness suddenly feels huge. One good day erases 5 difficult ones. Occasional affection becomes proof that everything is okay. Not because the problems disappeared, but because being loved feels too important to risk losing. In those moments, the red flags don't actually disappear.
they just become too painful to fully acknowledge. There's also something fascinating about the way our brains deal with uncertainty. Our minds really don't like unanswered questions. So when someone's actions don't match their words, we naturally start creating explanations. They're overwhelmed. They've just been hurt before. They're scared of getting close. Now, sometimes those explanations are completely true.
People really do carry emotional wounds, but sometimes those stories become a bridge between what we're seeing and what we're hoping is true. Hope has a beautiful side, but it also has a quiet habit of softening reality. And here's the part that often happens so slowly we don't even notice it. Ignoring one red flag usually doesn't feel like a big deal. It's just one moment, then another, then another. Over time, your definition of normal begins to shift. Things that would have shocked you at the beginning of the relationship slowly become things you expect.
It's a gradual process, almost like walking into a room that's slowly getting darker. Because the light fades little by little, your eyes adjust. You don't notice how much has changed until someone else points it out. The same thing can happen emotionally. Eventually, something even deeper begins to change. You stop trusting your own instincts. Instead of asking yourself, why did that hurt? You start asking, am I just being too sensitive?
Instead of trusting your own feelings, you begin trusting their explanations more than your own experience. It's almost like carrying a compass next to a powerful magnet. The compass isn't broken, it still works. It's just being pulled away from where it's naturally meant to point. And maybe that's the most important thing to understand. People who ignore red flags usually aren't choosing unhealthy relationships because they enjoy suffering. More often, they're protecting connection.
They're protecting hope. They're protecting the possibility that this relationship might finally become the love they've been searching for. Because underneath all of it is something deeply human. We all want to believe that the people we love will love us in the way we need. Sometimes that hope becomes so powerful that it temporarily speaks louder than reality. And maybe understanding that changes the way we look at ourselves. Not because it changes what happened, but because it reminds us that ignoring red flags wasn't proof that we were foolish or broken. It was simply the heart doing what hearts have always done, holding on to love for just a little longer.